So I'm Shawn Levine. I'm in the Marriage and Family Therapy program at Texas A&M Central Texas. We're talking about family diversity today. We live in an age when families have become very diverse. If you look around the culture, the family structure in our society has changed radically, and has become far more diverse than it has ever been. We have the standard, kind of the traditional families of a husband, wife, a couple of kids. There are single parent families. There are same gender families without children. There are people that have been married multiple times and have multiple, family connections. So sensitivity to family diversity is really important because families have just become so very, very diverse. In order for a therapist to connect with a family, that therapist really needs to be very sensitive to the diversity both within the culture of families and in this particular family in front of him or her that's being dealt with at the moment. So within any given family, there are language issues, there are customs and courtesies, there are traditions, there are rituals. Each family, we would say, is its own kind of culture, its own system. And in order for a therapist to connect with all of that, it requires a sensitivity and an openness to what's going on in this particular family right in front of me. So I guess I would say in terms of larger cultural patterns, just the ways in which family structures have diversified, especially over the last 10, 15, 20 years. And then within each family, because you can be looking at a family that looks exactly like the one that you just talked to, and they can have an entirely different way of doing life and doing family. Their own family has its own kind of vernacular. That family has its own structure, its own family structure, its own use of power. How is the power distributed in this family? And among different families, those things are all different. So if a therapist wants to connect with a family, it's really important to be sensitive to the unique nature of this particular family, that it can be very diverse from the family that you just had in your office 10 minutes ago, and it requires an openness. What can happen when the therapist is not sensitive to that is they can transgress on all of those unique family characteristics, and then you have an increasing distance between the family and the therapist, and work can become hindered. So what would be tragic is if a family came for help and help was just within their reach, but because of the therapist's insensitivity to issues surrounding diversity, they were not able to access that help, even though a therapist is right in front of them. So the ignorance or insensitivity of the therapist causing a transgression on that family's culture that then leads them to walk away without help would be a tragic thing. So it's very important then for the therapists to be aware of diversity issues, and then how those are impacting the therapist and how they might impact the therapeutic relationship. If I'm dealing with a family perhaps that is very different from me, but I am not, and I'm having biases, unconscious biases that creep to the surface and that cause me to make assumptions about this family that end up not being true, then I'm not dealing with the family in front of me. I'm dealing with the family in my head, this kind of imaginary family, because I'm allowing my presuppositions and my biases to overlay onto the family sitting in front of me, and I'm not dealing with them. I'm dealing with my own imagination. That's where everything begins to go wrong, because then I'm assuming that when they say this, they mean that, or when they do this, that they're really trying to do that, because I'm having my own kind of biases and assumptions get in the way of really knowing why do they say things this way? Why do they really do this? It causes me to distance myself from them and not really engage. I think I plan to keep reading, keep studying, This is an area that's always growing in the world of family therapy, especially in this day of diversity. So it's my plan to stay very connected academically with this particular topic, to keep looking into the journals, reading new publications that come out that address the importance of this topic, and then how a therapist can navigate it. So just good old-fashioned, reading and studying, lots of internet resources. This is an area of my practice that I want to remain consciously engaged with on a regular basis. There are certain things you just keep on doing, skills development, those kind of things, and this is one of them. Just continually, just kind of embedding into my own practice and into my own system of belief the diversity that exists out there in the world of family. So academic study. I plan to continue to engage people from all different walks of life and all different diverse, experiences. So I want to keep treating families that are very diverse. I want to keep discussing this with people that are different than me. I find it fascinating to engage cultures that are not mine, so I will continue to do that. And attending conferences and different fora where this is a topic of discussion, I think will be very important as I continue to just remain aware of this dynamic and grow in my ability not only to avoid not messing up, but get better at dealing with this so I can more fully help families from diverse walks of life. Yeah, I'll share a story. I was once working with a family, an Arabic family, and Mediterranean families are very patriarchal and very hierarchical. And we live in a egalitarian society. Increasingly, we're trying to sometimes even pressure families to be very egalitarian. And so in my first contact with them, I almost lost them as clients, because when I realized that there was a very strict structure and that power was consolidated at the top of this family with the father, I said, well, there's your problem. You have too much power in the family, and if you'll just relinquish some of that and spread it out, then things will get better. I transgressed almost every one of their cultural boundaries in saying that, and I thought I was helping them. I watched the dad become very agitated, of course, and at least I could notice that, because I immediately addressed what happened, and he was very frank with me that I had just pretty much trampled all over their cultural values. And that's kind of a worst case scenario for me in terms of my own work, that I was very unaware of what was going on and just simply laid over their whole family my values. And that's exactly what we don't want to see happen. And so that story is what continually reverberates in my own heart and mind. It's not just that this is an academic subject, but that it's very real in therapy. I've almost lost clients not being sensitive to diversity issues within families, and I hope never to. It's my goal not to do that. To approach families with a great deal more sensitivity to what's going on within their family. I think it's important to recognize that it's happened, and just to be honest and frank about it. To say something like, I noticed that things just got really tense in the room. What just happened? And most people will tell you, well, that's not how we believe. And so, rather than just trying to brush under the rug or pretend like it didn't happen, or to feel like to make it an ego issue, to kind of ignore it and deny it because I don't want it to hurt my ego, those things will not resolve the issue. I've found that just being honest and open about it and giving them an opportunity to give me feedback as a therapist, to say, you've walked with us pretty closely this far, but sometimes you just really don't get who we are, gives them the autonomy to really open my mind up to where they are at culturally. So I think just dealing with it and being honest and recognizing and sharing with them, I'm not perfect. Sometimes I'm gonna mess this up, but help me. If you then become the student, they rebound rather quickly.